AVIE, loosely translated, means for life.
Yeah.
So AVIE.
So it's based.
Yeah.
Cheers,
Yes.
everyone.
Yes.
Do we
There
chinkies?
This is a wheel. Bit of these. Nice one. Right, welcome to
Thank
our
you.
first tell session.
Thank you for inviting us.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Tell us what happened in New York in 2005. Did you turn to each other? Did you know each other back then? Did you turn to each other and say, "Hey, you know what? Let's do this. Let's start AVIE."
So yeah, I was working in Soho on Spring Street, and the movie Devil Wears Prada was filming on the street. So when I was going to work, they were outside. I couldn't even get to work, and there was all about excess fashion and all of this, and to a point where I was on a budget because I was assistant designer. So I was thinking, what can I buy that is stylish, has longevity, but still looks good?
Yeah.
Because even though New York is quite at the forefront of fashion, they are 6 months behind of London designers and London trend. Yes. Okay. So when I went over there, the whole bohemian trend had just hit London and it was coming to an end. But it had just started in New York. So people were like, oh my gosh, what are you wearing? And I was just like, this is old. This is like 6 months old.
Yeah, you're like, darling, you're behind the times.
Yeah.
Like,
but you don't realise, because you think, you know, from everything you hear and read about New York, you think that's at the forefront. And it just slowly developed. It was just an idea. And I thought, I'm so early in my career. I wasn't even thinking of having a business yet, because I thought I need a lot more industry experience. I need to be out there a bit more. There's so many greats out there that I need to learn from. So at the moment, it was just an idea. Liam was in Bristol at university studying. So he was studying civil engineering, a world away from fashion and what we're doing now, but at the same time, you know, we would communicate every day, but it was hard because 3 months apart, we would see each other.
yeah.
So it wasn't like it was an idea that we constantly talked about. It was just something for the future, whatever that future was. And for Liam
I got a sneak peek into the fashion world. I didn't know anything about it. But every 3 months I used to fly over, spend the student loan to go to New York, and get to know the design process, and also you had a studio a bit like this where you're all in one space, design, and you got your pattern cutter next to it. I didn't know what a pattern cutter was or what they did, but I got to see him using his chalk, and then they passed it to the seamstress, and they would do their stuff. I was like, oh, cool.
And was that kind of for you, and coming from a civil engineering background, having that kind of methodical approach and things, did that really interest you, that pattern cutting? Could you see yourself getting involved in that world ever? Could you imagine you?
Not back then, no. But the process of, having a tech pack, so it's like an architectural plan, and then having your production schedule and everything else like that. It's the same as civil engineering construction. Yeah. You plan it all out and you do it, and then you've got quality control at the end, and you're creating something quite unique, as you would a construction project or an architectural project. Yeah. So there's a lot of transferable skills in there. So I could see, oh, okay, they do a similar process to what I do, it's just a different end product. But it was just cool. I mean, you're young, you're in New York, picking up fabric for them and carrying it on your shoulder through Manhattan, thinking you're awesome.
I mean, you are awesome.
But it's the little things.
There,
and
in your early
cool.
20s, you're carrying fabric from 42nd Street down to Spring Street.
On your holiday.
On your holiday, because he's on holiday visiting me. I'm like, can you just pick up fabric?
Because she wouldn't get any time off, so she would just work, and I would sightsee myself through.
Yeah,
through
I
New
worked
York
all the time. Yes, Saturdays, Sundays. The owner gave me the keys to the building, and I didn't have any friends and family when I went over, so I thought I'll just work all the time. Yeah. And I was happy doing it because I thought I'm not going to get this experience anywhere else. My friends that were working in New York were either doing internships I said, what do you do? They said that we either make coffee or we alphabetize.
Fun.
But they work for Marc Jacobs or Karl Lagerfeld or for one of the big fashion houses. Yeah.
But they weren't getting the real skills.
They weren't getting the skills. They were not hiring models like I was. I was setting up shoots. I was going on campaigns. I was doing New York Fashion Week. And for such a lot of experience for a young person to be exposed to, and someone to trust you as well, because you need that trust. And being in a foreign country and not knowing the procedure. I remember the first day my boss said, can you mail these invitations out to the industry? I was like, yes, sure, of course. Took the box, went downstairs, And in America, there's a blue post box and a green post box. I had no idea why they had 2 post boxes.
Where do you go?
Yeah, I was like, oh, I don't want to look stupid going back upstairs. What do I do? So I just asked a random passerby, and it's like, one's federal, one's, you know, like stateside. And I was like, oh, okay, got it. So I was like, well, how do I know? I still don't know who to send it to because I don't know where all the locations were.
Yeah.
So I had to go back upstairs, and they're like, oh yes, we don't, it's such a British thing. They don't think about it, just think, you know. So that was my first day. I just remember the differences in the culture, and even though it's an English-speaking country, there's so much that is different too, because I was very conservative, British, shy in many ways, and I think the people working there were
New
just...
York toughens you up really
yeah,
quick.
they're like, you got to toughen up.
Yeah.
And
You're
you
New
have
Yorker
to,
now.
otherwise you won't
Yeah.
survive, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
long hours, and it is a tough city.
Yeah.
And you know,
Yeah.
you need it just to, it makes you grow up quick, I
Yeah.
suppose. And you're
It
working
did.
with older people that have been in the industry for a long time.
And
Yeah.
cutting your teeth on those sort of essential skills as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was more about getting those skills instead of getting the right name that you're working with.
Yeah.
'Cause you can't take the skills away.
And even
you
the
know.
money, it wasn't even about the money, it was just the experience. I mean, I wasn't on much pay at all. But luckily, the boss, her husband, was one of the most famous foot surgeons in New York. And he was funding the business. And he was just like, have you experienced New York? You know, have you been to La Esquina, which is like this kind of speakeasy where you got to have a certain like code word to get in to the restaurant downstairs, through the kitchen to get into this, you know, a secret
Like
space.
Goodfellas.
Yeah. There's loads of them in New York, these speakeasies. I'm like, and I literally said to him, no, you don't pay me enough. And he was like, yeah, but I was so honest in terms of my Britishness. I was like, you know, like, I didn't think it was a bad thing to say. He just turned around to me and said, company card, like, go out, like, you've got to enjoy the sight. It was nothing to them. They was like, you've got to have a good time while you're in New York. So every time my boss went out, she was like, Sonya, have you been to this restaurant? Have you been to this club? I was like, no. I was like, I was living the high life. Yeah, all drinks paid
love
for.
it. And all because you knew your worth. You're like, you don't pay me enough, and I cannot legit afford to go there. Please give me the. And they was like, yeah. Here you go.
Yeah.
Now
It was
we know.
nothing for them. They just wanted everyone to have like a good time, and it was a
Yeah.
very small team, but highly trained in high-end fashion.
Yeah.
And that's where I think I got the love for well-made clothes and how to finish off clothes properly, and the attention to detail, and the fabrications played a massive part in making sure a longevity of a piece is carried through. So I think that was the first kind of milestone. And then from there we moved to London, but the economy crisis was hit, and there was a lot of people
Yeah.
being laid off from
2008 when we moved to
yeah,
London.
and a
Good
lot of
timing, yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't actually. It was
we
good
did
time I
okay.
left New York,
We did okay in it.
but in London, all the fashion houses were not hiring. So I had to do high street again because the high street was thriving,
Yeah.
which was a bit of a come down in terms of, you know, this high
Doing
couture
couture.
here,
Yeah.
one-off
Right,
pieces for celebrities in Hollywood for the red carpet and Oscars and Demi Moore and all them, to doing high street.
Yeah.
And it was such a grounded experience because you get a little bit disjointed being in that world in New York. And London was very much, this is what it's about, like, you know, hard hitting, be on the tube for an hour and a half commuting.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing that in New York at all. So,
But then it was another skill set, whereas
yeah,
it was a faster pace,
Yeah.
different design, different customer.
Yeah.
So I suppose you've gone from 2 extremes, but you've got a different customer persona that you have to, you know, make designs for. So it just gives you those extra skills and that different way of thinking.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like another, what's the word, string to the bow or bow to the string, whichever one it
String
is.
to the bow.
String to the
String
bow.
to the bow.
So it's another string to the bow.
Yeah.
And it's been that way every time we've moved somewhere. It's been a new process or a new language. Like after London, it was Barcelona. So Sonya was doing 2 hours a day of Spanish in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So it was like,
'Cause they
I used
didn't
to
speak
drop
a
you
word.
off at like 7, 8 in the morning. Used to get a coach out of the city to the place
And this
of
was,
work, and then
this
come
was
back
for the
and she'd
big
study again.
international global brand that it was leading in fast fashion at the time.
Yeah.
And they have several brands underneath their belt. So
Yeah.
what they had was like a big bus from the center of Barcelona going to the outskirts of Barcelona where they were headquarters, and it was a huge facility. I mean, anything you can think of, they just could do it. It was like money was no option. So when I was designing, whereas in New York, there was a budget, but you used the best materials from France and Italy, and it was the highest, quality you could find. To some.
They sample on site as well.
Yeah, for
so
this
they can develop
company.
things really quick.
The turnaround was very fast. So.
And they utilize data in a fantastic way. Where if someone walks into a certain store that they have in another country and say they want a certain color of sweater that's not there, they'll relay that information straight to the sample maker and say, let's get this out, and they can churn out that color fabric and that product within a week and get them into that store.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they act on data that they get, and if they see obviously a spike in a certain type of dress in a certain color, they can. And
in store within 2 weeks.
So what's the cost of that? Like, to have it at that level of efficiency?
Oh,
is
gosh.
that a massive drain on sort of resources?
Yes, because you sample and sample and sample and sample and sample to the point where you just have masses of clothes on the floor and you're just picking out what you want. And in addition to that, you go on supporting trips, which is you travel around the world. You go to Korea, you go to Buenos Aires, any major cities for research. And there's some trend that's happening there. You kind of pick up on that and you bring it back to your team and you make a story. For example, it could be a mod 50s trend type thing. And you're like, this is happening in London, and this is happening in Australia, this is happening. And you're literally flying around the world and you're picking up what's happening before it's happened in your country or happened on a big scale. And you try to capitalize on that trend before it goes mainstream. And that's when you're at the forefront. And it's a particular eye you need to do that. I think that's why some of these places that do fast fashion, you have to have a particular kind of fastness to it. The environment is very fast paced. You're working late night every night and you're just trying to get the best thing out there. So as soon as it comes on a catwalk, you have a version of it within a day or two to present to the bosses.
Like,
and
all that matters is getting that thing
that
ready.
thing out there, because you need to be first. And I think that's why this company in particular was the best at what they do, because everything was a vertical integration. You didn't have to go out anywhere, and there were suppliers come from around the world. There was just a line of people from outside the door waiting to see if they can do business with this company.
Wow.
Yes, I mean, and
but
then
having that,
there's a lot of power with that.
Yeah.
You know, when you're working for them, it's
but
like
being able to get that product into the stores before anyone else is huge for sales.
Yeah.
So they can justify all that hard work and extra expense in the beginning because they know they're going to make the sales in the end before anybody else.
And that's why the concept was, do what you need to do to get the best trend and garments, like just design, but design the best you can. And it wasn't focused on, it has to cost this much, or you have this. It wasn't so much focused on budget constraints. It has to be the best design you can get out there. And with that, I mean, when I used to go out and say we represent this company, it was, doors were just open because, like I said, the journey I started in New York, fast fashion had just taken off. Yeah. So I'm a little bit older than you guys, so I used to fax my designs to China in the beginning. Yes.
What's that?
Exactly. And so that was like, it didn't go through, and it would beep, and it was like, then within that, because I went to in New York, everything's hand sketching. They don't do computer aided design in high fashion because they prefer you to sketch everything out. It's more organic. They prefer it, and it shows your skill set. When I came back to London, everything is computer aided design. They don't want anything hand sketched because the whole industry is geared towards fast fashion in that way. And with that, I had to retrain myself on Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and because that was the fastest way to get it out there, because any amendments, you can just tweak a few things and it's just gone. And when I was working at this big company in Barcelona, they were at the top level of doing that, and everything was integrated. So it was just on such a fast level. I realized that that's where the momentum was coming for fast fashion. It was, the demand was there, so they had to pump out more. So it was a little bit of a catch-22. It was not like they curated it. It just surged, and it was just more and more, and people were just wanting more things at a faster pace.
There's no restraint.
Yeah, and then at the same time, the social media things are coming up, and everyone's getting a bit more aware. And
MySpace had gone. There's this thing called Facebook.
That
and like, what?
guy.
Facebook?
Poor Tom.
MySpace Tom. So where were you at this point? Were you sort of watching how?
Oh, me?
No. So in terms of the industry, were you sort of at this point? Were you still learning and realizing, this is the way things work, or were you formulating an opinion and realizing Because I know you told us about your values sort of reached a natural point with the industry where you wanted to take a bit of a change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was both. I think it was in tandem. I was finding out new things about the industry, and it was just faster, longer, you know, spend more time on it. And it was like an insatiable appetite that they had, and you can never satisfy it because it's the next big thing is always around the corner. So and it was stressful. The stress levels for all the designers went sky high because it's always too late. Even though you've done it, say that day, it's too late because maybe somebody else has done it, and why has that company done it and you haven't done it? So the pressure on designers were immense, and the factories as well. So they had to pump out every single design to see what it looked like in a physical form. The expense of that. And then at the time I was like, oh God, it's, you know, going to China for 3 weeks.
So much waste.
So much waste.
Even
you saw.
from Barcelona we went to Denmark, it was the same type of process.
Yeah.
At that stage I was doing the fashion photography for the same company, and I would get all the samples to do all the shoots, and someone told me 50% of the items that I shot would never be seen because those samples would never be taken forward. And I just thought, how crazy is that? Like,
but they still paid you to come in and do all that, even though those photographs would never see the light of day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
like you're doing twice as much work, and well, you wasting 50% of your
yeah, but just to give you some
people
context,
and stock and everything.
Liam was like in a different building doing the photography studio for the same company I was the design manager for in another building, and we were doing the collections, but it was a different format from what it was in Barcelona, where it was very much integrated and everyone was aligned. So it was in a way streamlined. No one was overlapping. In this other company, but in Denmark, there was several divisions that were competing against each other. So there was a lot of overlap.
Right.
And everybody wanted to get the sale because it was wholesale and retail. So if you remember, you know, there's brands like Republic and things like that bought in brands from overseas. It was those kind of people we would sell to. Okay. And denim was the main thing, which, as you know, denim uses a lot of water for the whole process of producing all of that. And, you know, we would make like 400 samples for one collection.
Wow.
And there'd be 8 collections a year.
You cannot put 400 samples in a store. And then Liam would shoot it, but knowing less than half would even get seen. Yeah. Wow. To even make it to show the salespeople who are representing like 150 countries. So once we've done the collection, I would then do a presentation to like 200 salespeople representing like Portugal, Turkey, Russia, and they would just pick out, because they're so vastly different from their countries for the culture, they would pick out different things from the collection. Therefore, you had to have a bigger collection for them to have the options. To
satisfy everyone.
Yeah, again, it's the need, to satisfy the need.
You sort of spent this time in fast fashion and realised like the crazy pace of it and the cost of it. What was the final straw that pushed you into, okay, let's actually start looking at a slower alternative?
I think for me, it hit me when we were just making samples for the sake of making samples. Yeah. And there was no justification of, but it's fine, it's whatever, Sonya, we won't use that. And I just thought, I just don't want to do that anymore. I think I literally said to myself, I just don't want to do that anymore. And we got out.
It's just like you keep churning it out. Every season there's a couple of collections, and there's a drop collection, and then there's the
Express collection, and then it's the trend collection.
So there's all these different collections just to service the trend at that moment in time, and it is monotonous, and it just keeps going, and you just think,
like, why? It's
I feel like you're not contributing to anything really, apart from satisfying a monthly trend.
Yeah. And to have someone say that as well, like, you know, you're working every day on a project or a sample or a collection, to know, for someone to turn around and say, oh yeah, we're not going to use that. I feel like that must be so disheartening to live in that environment.
It is for designers.
And plus you lose that thing
especially when you're head of designers. I was going to say.
But you lose that craft. You lose that, like finding a piece of fabric and going, what can I do with this? And then developing that idea and doing the design in a certain way to complement that fabric because you believe in that fabric or that colour. Yeah. And really taking your time to develop something, and then at the end you can go like, oh my God, it's there, it's amazing, it's what I wanted. Yeah. Whereas the fast fashion was just, it serves a purpose, just do it.
I think because everybody was looking for the catwalks, and then things went digital, so no one was looking at print magazines anymore. Everything for the designers are available online on trend sites. So the catwalks will be released and designers will be sketching within an hour or two of a collection being released. So you look at the main ones, you know, Balmain, Gucci, Balenciaga, and you'll have a version of, and it became less about designing and more about copying the big designers.
Chasing each other's tails.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
So then I think there was also kind of a design ethos that was lost as well. I think for me it was like we're just copying. It doesn't really, we're not we're not creating. We are just imitating a lesser version of something that's well made. And I think we just kind of reflected a little bit and said, look, you know, why don't we take all the elements of all the countries we've lived and worked and build a layer of this company that we're thinking of doing. And I have to admit, I was actually quite afraid to start it, and Liam had to push me into it. I think it's because I've been in this, I've always wanted my own business, but when you start getting comfortable in your job, and like I said, you get all the perks, you know, you get the company apartments and things like that, and you just get really comfortable. You have to give up all your lifestyle. Like, and I said to him, you know, this great apartment in Melbourne.
Yeah, we did get to stage of a nice, we had a 2-bed apartment in Melbourne.
Yes.
Overlooking the city.
Yes.
It was really nice.
I said to him, you
I could play golf on the weekends, and you're like,
wow.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Should we go for it? But then you just think, well, why not?
Well,
why not go for it?
We don't like being, how's that word, comfortable. We get bored and complacent, and we don't want to be complacent because it means you're not growing. Yeah. So for us, like, we're still young.
We don't want to be stagnant.
We're still in our early 30s.
Let's keep trying new things.
Let's try new things. And we said, we're going to do this before we have a mortgage, have kids and things like that. And let's do it. And we said, okay.
Yeah. So AVIE.
Yeah.
So,
and then AVIE
we came back to Yorkshire.
You came back to Yorkshire.
Yes.
Yes.
And now do you find yourself, you're working together in the business. It's a small team. You're not working with 50 designers or whatever in a room, and then you're outsourcing to China, etc. Do you wake up every day thinking, God, this is my life? You know, I feel so. And then you see someone wearing your collection, and you go, is it more satisfying now? Have you kind of found that contentment, even though you had to leave the house, the 3-bedroom apartment in Melbourne?
I think it was just before Christmas. We got our first bit of user-generated content. With someone from Armenia.
Really?
Took a picture wearing our jacket, our coat in the street. And I was like, I woke her up because I saw it. I'm always on Instagram checking what's going on. Just for the company. I'm not a fan of social media. And I was like, oh, someone's tagged us. So I woke up at night and said, look, someone's wearing it in Armenia.
Yeah, I think you freaked her out.
Because I messaged her back straight away. And she said, oh yeah, great, thanks. I think she unfollowed us.
Oh no!
No, she didn't. No, but it was such a cool thing, and I didn't think I'd get that excited about it. But seeing someone in our stuff was kind of cool.
It's because you see myself picking the fabric, doing the design process, which is in itself, kind of time-consuming thing, making sure we're getting the best out of the fabric, and looking at it going, will that last? Will that design still be relevant for the next season? Is that going to be exciting? Because a lot of sustainable brands do a lot of plain things in terms of like muted tones. And we did do a collection of that, but it wasn't us. We tried it and we said, we're going away from what we actually are. We want to be stylish. We want to but still have that eco credential. But at the same time, we want to get people to get excited about the clothes that we're doing. And we wanted
women to feel empowered in the clothes. And like the one we really went for was the biker jacket, to give you that strength when you put it on. You feel, Sonya always wanted to put a jacket on where she could walk into any kind of presentation or into a room and feel confident. Yeah. And clothes can do that. You know, even for me, if I put something with a collar on it, I feel a little bit taller because I have to sit up straight. You know, those little things, and it does help people. Yeah. And we wanted to bring that into the jackets and the coats, but also the dresses. Yeah. So when we design a dress, we want it to pop a little bit. So you can walk down the street going, yeah, you can look at me, you know, and people might, and you go, and it gives you that
confidence. What you were, and then also the added benefit, I guess, of knowing that every item of clothing you got, you know why the decision's been made there. It's not just been the highest rated, mean average of the data sample.
Exactly.
There is a story to
There is a story, and there's a lot
and
of
something
love
you take your time over, and
it.
like the sleeve of the leather jacket, we spent forever
getting it right.
Redoing it and developing it, and just so it was ideal for most body shapes and sizes. But You know, we spent
There's
time
a lot
doing
that goes into it, and making a sample, but then getting the measurements right for it, for making sure a lot of people can wear it. Because unfortunately, I found out that my arm is like an inch shorter than it should be.
So Sonia's not a fit model.
Just
you know, so
is it just the one
No,
arm?
both.
just the one arm.
Yeah, but
Wait, hold
apparently-
on. Are there standard lengths of arms?
Yes.
Is there something else that we need to
Average-
stress
average
out
length of
about?
arms,
models have longer arms. So like we have a
Well, for instance,
jacket on the rail.
in Denmark, when I would buy any jeans or a jumper, especially jeans, they're longer in the leg
Because they're tall.
because they're taller. Most Danes and
Yes.
most
We were like
Scandinavians.
hobbits in
See,
Denmark.
I had to turn everything up. You know,
Oh, no.
thank God the turn-ups are okay. You know, the style was okay. But I had to do all that because it just didn't fit. But
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
everything's different.
I'm
But we were the
really
tallest people in Barcelona.
You're like nailing it.
Because they're usually quite small.
But in Denmark, we
they
were
were like-
tiny.
But even
Like
in
wizards.
that, like those sort of insights that you get now from being behind your own company and figuring those problems out for yourself, they give you more expertise
Yes.
than you would learn in that fast
Yeah.
industry
Yeah.
because you've not got time to think in that place.
Yeah, yeah.
And the funny thing is, you don't realise you have it until you come across the problem.
Yeah.
And then when you design it, and you're like, oh, actually, if this was being sold in this country, this would be an issue. So let's kind of eliminate that risk. And what can we do to kind of... And it is hard because we are a small brand. And there's only a certain amount of things we can do. We don't have, you know, massive amounts of budgets of these luxury brands have.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're more agile. And I think within the... You know, our slow fashion ethos, it started in 2019 where not many people were doing it. And so we were kind of paving the way within the industry. And when COVID happened, and there was like 1,000 slow fashion brands that come out of nowhere. We're like,
Yeah.
what?
Like, hi guys, welcome to
Yeah.
the conversation. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think everyone, even during lockdown, everyone's thought about that thing of maybe keeping your items for longer, maybe or buying something that's going to last longer,
Yeah.
because you can't just nip out to the shop because it's closed.
Yep.
So I think hopefully the mindset has changed during lockdown of people thinking, well, maybe I should buy something more local, help a local business in a way, and buy something that's going to last instead of just throwing it away. I mean, we've seen in Australia as well. We saw people just throw the shoes on the floor.
We would
After
see
a night
random
out?
shoes on the floor when we'd go out for brunch on the weekend. And he's
I
like,
started taking pictures to make a collage of all these shoes.
The
Lonely
Instagram
shoes.
account,
Well,
like
yeah.
people
like,
who throw
what
away
happened
shoes.
Girls-
here? What's the story
Yeah,
behind this shoe?
girls would go out and they would
Yeah.
buy the cheapest pair of high heels they can get, walk around in the trainers. When they went into the club,
Yes.
they'd slip off the trainers, put on the high heels to get into the club, and then when in the club, they'd take them off and put the trainers back on because they can only get in with
with
heels
the heels
on.
Oh,
Yeah.
So at the end of
Yeah.
the night, they would just throw the heels on the floor because they were like $5 or whatever, and then they don't want it. So you'd see this epidemic of lost shoes.
Yes.
And I felt
So
sorry
these-
for like the single shoes because like, what happened to the other one?
Like, where's
Where
your...
is that
But
one?
usually,
They're
it was a
together.
pair. Usually, it was a
together.
pair together just on the floor.
That's mental.
But every so often, you find one.
I think that's definitely the unseen side of the environmental impact of
Yeah. Well, yeah.
the
But
Australian shoe scene.
yeah.
The Australian shoes. Yeah, I mean, if that could sum up fast fashion in an Instagram account, it would be that. People who throw shoes away at the end of the night.
Yeah.
That's
Australian.
it.
And but you get that with dresses as well. People wear a dress once, and they'll either return it, or they'll just not wear it again and put it in the bin.
Oh, I don't put them in the bin, but I have been known to keep tags.
Okay. You're the one.
Yeah, well, after this conversation, I'm going to go home and take all the tags off, and then.
That's
you
why-
know,
But it's also like investing in your wardrobe
Yeah.
and being proud of your wardrobe.
Yeah.
You think I'm going to keep that.
Shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm excited for this.
Okay,
So,
Okay.
what's this? Oh,
see
gosh.
these plant pots? Do you think they were actual plant pots? No. Right. In these plant pots are prompts. Can you remember which has which in?
No, it's a surprise.
Right.
Even to me.
So we're going to hand
Prompts.
you guys a prompt. Please pull a lucky dip prompt out of your plant pots and read out.
Do we
what
win
you've
money? Or
got. Maybe.
is it like the lottery?
Depends. Down the line, maybe. This might inspire something.
70s funk.
Yep.
70s funk.
Kanye West.
Kanye West.
Oh,
That's a good one.
oh, funeral.
Yes.
Okay, so
I was really hoping
these these are the influencers that we have to design for. We can design anything. We have 30 seconds to a minute. I'm going to actually give us a minute because I'm definitely going to need a minute for this. And we each have a pen and paper to design something for Kanye West inspired by 70s funk to wear at a funeral?
Oh, okay, it's a combination.
It's a combination.
But there's only one designer.
Oh, well, we're all designers today.
Okay,
We
right.
can all be designers today, it's fine.
No, I've got something really weird.
Yeah, me too.
Time's up, pens down.
Amazing. There we go.
I've just got to finish his knees.
Pen down!
I started
Right.
doing something wrong.
Okay, everyone, after three, we're gonna show them to camera, okay?
Oh,
3,
no.
Which one?
2, all of them, just show.
Oh,
1.
no. Oh, no.
Oh, you can draw?
Yeah, she can draw.
Is that
Yeezy's, whatever it's called.
He's got his shutter shades on, in the spirit of Kanye.
I didn't even get that far.
Black shutter shades.
necessary?
Obviously, I forgot about the funeral element, so imagine this
Yeah,
is
I
all
did.
black, but he's got a big puffy pimp jacket and flares. He does have legs, he's just very small at the minute. And then I've just put a little foot cam here that you can see he's wearing rollerblades. As if the funeral's on like a rink, like a roller rink. They lower him into
funeral is he attending? Like,
don't know, someone from the 70s, I guess.
So I was thinking,
I've got power shoulders with studs on,
Love that.
okay.
a nice high neck collar,
Yep.
buttons, shorts with spot stripes, and then clown's
what's
shoes.
that?
That's
His knee.
That's his name.
He's wearing shorts. I thought I'd make sure you knew the shorts.
I was Kanye going all Christ-like. It actually got really intricate and
Feeling
the
very
70s.
Christ-like, yeah.
70s, you know, the Moschino kind of,
What fabric would that?
that kind of jersey, you know, the multicolored jersey with the metallic lame embedded in it. I was thinking it has the crochet details. That's going very 70s. You
I'm
won't see-
miles off
That
on
rose
that.
has those rainbow stripes, you won't see, and then it has the kind of scalloped edges.
Right, should we do another?
Right.
Oh,
We'll do
okay.
more.
Pick another prompt.
Okay. Oh, do you want to pick the occasion this time? You have the. Oh, sorry.
I'm just sorry.
80s retro.
You spent a lot of time on this. Like,
Yeah.
writing all these down, because there's quite a few in there.
Right.
80s retro.
Oh, I don't know this woman. Hang on.
Okay.
I'm not down with the kids.
If it's the Queen, I'll be so disappointed. Like, I don't know this woman.
Okay, I know him.
Who?
I don't know who Cardi B was.
Fair enough.
Okay.
That's all right.
That's
all right.
fine. That's cool.
You know?
Charlotte's playlist, so Heartbroken.
Now we've got Elton John. So you can either have Elton John or Cardi B. Which one do you want?
Right.
Elton John.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
My,
Elton John 80s retro kind
And
of
I've
go
got-
together anyway.
I've got swimwear.
Oh.
Elton John 80s swimwear.
Okay.
Right.
Right. Let's do Elton John going for a swim. Okay.
Yeah, let's hope he never sees the show.
I kind of.
Love that. Love that.
What?
Just a pair of budgie smugglers.
Amazing.
Or a little
I
shrunk.
asked if you
sarong.
had
What's
hair.
the crosshatch? What's the crosshatch on the smugglers?
It's like check. I don't know. Maybe
Okay.
it's check.
Okay.
He's good at the patterns.
I gave him big glasses, but no eyes.
Oh, you the feathers. You the headdress.
And a big-
Yeah, I did the.
The horns, the devil
Is it on
horns.
Rocket Man? Is it on Rocket Man?
Yeah, I can't watch it. Yeah.
Anyway, then the power shoulders, and then he's got the all-in-one onesie, but then he's got a whole wraparound to make
That's
it a bit more
amazing.
glamorous. No, not really.
It's like a
Just a
full
box.
body swimming toga. So he's wearing a Nintendo Entertainment System. That's my HG's retro somewhere. And
Okay.
he's saying, has anyone
Socket
got a
man.
socket, man? And then it's got a little tail, which is the controller. So he's basically put his legs through an NES and then decided to make it work.
I think you need to
Good idea.
trademark Socket Man. I think that needs to be the
That
new.
is really
got-
cool.
That's copyrighted.
Socket
Tell
Man.
Studio right there.
It's
Yeah.
gonna come up
You
on
can
the
all
screen.
draw. Like I really can't
She's
draw.
she's
I
fine
don't
as
know,
well.
Matt. I look at that pot belly. That's a great pot belly.
Look at those budgie smugglers.
It's just from looking in the mirror. I knew how to do it.
Oh no,
Amazing.
I don't know. I literally
Did you
just
do
drew
the-
the Borat costume.
Did
I
you
don't
do
know.
the?
It's like very V-neck, and then I was like, oh god, it looks a bit like the people who sing YMCA.
Village people.
The village
People.
people. And I was like, oh god, it looks like the braces, and I was like, don't do braces, and then I'm like, oh god, now it's like Borat costume, and I drew like I don't know, I panicked.
Yeah, what's his like wing?
I don't know.
It works.
I panicked, okay? Josh, but he does have a
Yeah, I
shoulder.
tried to do that. Like a little. He has these kind of
Oh,
power
is it
shoulders.
like a,
Yeah.
right.
Over the top, but just make him look more powerful
missed
because he's so
that
small.
Thank you.
The
There you go.
stature.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So now that we have done this design process and kind of had like some of the seen what you guys come up with, You have brought with you today some of your own garments
Oh, yes.
from AVIE.
Yes.
Let's have a chat about them. I would love to know more. So I know that you've got this beautiful, we can kind of like zoom in on it or something.
I'll fetch.
Beautiful rack behind us of some of your garments. Now these are all samples.
Yes.
Which ones would you like to talk about? Are they, what's the story behind some of these? Like the salmon jacket and
Yeah,
the,
I can bring that one forward.
yellow dress.
Yeah, so this one's made of, it's the relaxed blazer. Yeah, so the
Here I come.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, so this blazer is basically made out of cupro,
Okay.
which is a byproduct of cotton. So it's cotton linter, and it's like the waste of it.
Okay.
It has this kind of silk feel. It's also dubbed this kind of vegan silk, which is great.
Why is it? How is silk vegan? What makes silk?
No,
vegan?
it's a version of silk.
They would say it's a vegan silk because
Yes.
it's not silk.
Not
It's-
silk.
Oh, right.
But it
It's
has
made
that
from-
touch.
It's made from reused water and
The byproduct of cotton.
byproduct of cotton,
Okay.
Yeah.
all mixed in together, and
Yeah.
then
Okay.
Yeah,
So
something.
why is normal silk not vegan?
Well, the process of making silk is like you use a silkworm and you boil them to death.
Okay.
I was like, that got dark really quickly.
Well,
Yeah.
you kind of cook them, don't
Yeah,
you?
well, you boil
You let them grow, and
Yeah.
then when they get to a certain age, they grow within like a day, and then
Right.
you heat them up,
Blanching.
and they die, and then you pick out the silk from within it.
It's quite a
and then you
process.
use it.
Yes. I mean,
YouTube, it's great.
yeah,
It's all
YouTube
about-
it. Yeah.
I don't think I could stomach that.
So
That's,
we wanted to use alternatives to that. Cupro is one of the.
Alternatives.
The thing
for
about
it.
fabric is, there's not, even though you say sustainable, there will be an element of it that is not 100% because it's just like the water usage and
Yeah.
you know, going through the chemicals, things like that. But what you do is try to reduce that as much as possible.
Yeah.
So Cupro is one of the better ones that we wanted. And also it looks like a tailored fabric, and we do a lot of tailoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do a lot of tailoring, and we wanted something that you can throw on but look high end. So it has that feel. So you have this kind of textured touch towards it. And within that, we thought, well, the colour needs to represent, and because it's such a relaxed summer type blazer, you can imagine wearing it on top of a white dress, you know, white top, and it just pops a little bit. It gives you, especially if you have a tan. So we take this all into consideration, like when will she wear this? You know, how would it look with other lighter pieces of fabrications? Where will she wear this? And I think that all comes into play. And then we use, where we can, the linings from Yorkshire.
The lining's really nice. Yeah, I just noticed that.
So we try to invest in the lining as well. So we don't use polyester in any of our fabrications. We just don't like the touch of it, the ethos behind it.
Yeah.
We want to use natural fabrications as much as possible, but elevated into designed pieces. And the piece that you're holding,
It's beautiful.
yeah, it's one of our first printed pieces. It's a whole folding neckline handkerchief dress, and it has some gathers at the bust line. So this piece was one of our first printed pieces.
Okay.
And with this, we wanted to do a print, but with print sometimes it can be such a process with the dyeing and the colours of the dyes. So this is digitally printed,
Oh, what does that mean?
computerized.
Big printer.
A big printer that is used on the computer, and it prints the fabric.
Straight onto it.
Really?
Yes, instead of going through dyeing the fabrications and the fibres and things like that, because that can be such an ordeal. So we try to, well, how can we incorporate print but still be aligned with that ethos? So we're trying to find ways to be a bit more exciting. So that is printed. And the fabrication is actually viscose.
Oh.
Yeah, but it has a silk finish. So it has a silk touch. So
Oh
it's not silk, but a lot of people mistake it for silk.
Genuinely thought it was silk. Not gonna lie. Not
No.
gonna lie.
And there's a little bit more, price-wise, a little bit more friendly in terms of that direction. And then we've just invested a lot into the design details, because we thought where people expect, you know, the fabrication of silk to elevate, we want to do that also with the design elements. So it doesn't have to be just a simple silk dress or silk type dress.
Yeah.
It has something going on. And we try to do prints that are abstract. So we call this a mini geo.
Okay.
Like a modernized geo, because it has this element into it where it's a little bit more stylized. But you look at it and it's not offensive. It's not going to date in your wardrobe. You can still wear that, and you can wear that to work and then go to dinner afterwards. So it's the versatility of it as well. So.
And also from a distance, it looks different from when you're close up, and so people get a different opinion of it when they get closer up to it, because you can really see the intricate detail. But from a distance, it just catches the eye in a different way.
It's funny because a lot of people get funny about prints. They're very, it's very subjective to what they like, what they don't like. So when you have something that's, we call it non-offensive, it has a global appeal that can still stand the test of time, and I think that was one of them. And even the colour, a lot of people, because I designed it with, well, what if someone's got darker skin or someone's got lighter skin? What kind of colour range can we use to kind of make sure it doesn't, not one person cannot wear it, if you know what I mean. It kind of
universally flattering.
Try to be, so you
And
really
also
have to play the colours.
Yeah, also be like a day dress and an even dress if you want it to be.
Yeah.
It's multifunctional.
Yeah.
So it's not just pigeonholed into one area where it's...
Yeah, a younger client might wear
you
it
can
with
wear
some
it
trainers.
whenever you want to. Yeah.
Or you might think, well, I need a nice dress to go to a wedding, and just elevate that in a certain way.
So you mentioned two things which I'd love to kind of just hear your opinion on. So you mentioned how it's digitally printed.
Yes.
And that the dyeing process, that I imagine a lot of fast fashion companies use, can be a bit of an ordeal, you said. What is about that dyeing process? Are there chemicals involved?
Well, there's lots. There's like screen printing. A lot of people are trying to go digital because it's a bit more effective. And when you have something on screen, you can see it for size and scale it, and then you can print it onto fabrication to kind of eliminate that extra wastage. A lot of businesses, because the element of having luxury, will dye it and see how that goes. And it's just a process that we just think is not necessary, because we still get the end result. And if it's made beautifully and the fabric is great and you have the nice elements, it still has that feel of it. We're just trying to navigate the same kind of end product, but we're using a bit more resourcefulness in how we get to that.
Yeah. When they manufacture products like this and garments like this in China and dye them in factories over there, is there anything negative that comes with that, or is it much the same kind of process that?
It depends. It depends. Normally there's 1 or 2 or 3 colorways. So there's never just one, because you can never usually satisfy just one colorway of a print. You'll have 2 or 3 options, because 2 or 3 options will be also selected by different buyers in different locations. For example, if you're living in a bit more refined area with city-like, you probably won't do a lot of, muted colors maybe, or maybe they want lots of color, so they'll go for more vibrant colors of that. But the design might be the same. So I think within that, the consumption is, how can we satisfy need across the board when there's different locations? And that's what China is there for, because the brands that work in China are usually quite vast, because the volumes of scale are huge. It's like 10,000 pieces, There's a lot of smaller ones, of course, but the ones I've worked with, I usually do a lot of pieces in one go, and that's because it's cheaper to do more and to do upfront than to go back and repeat the order and start from scratch again. So it's just a process of how can we be most effective in China, but the process is still long. And it's not just that, it's going back and forth with the shipping.
Yeah, and the cost, and
the
cost of the environment as well.
Yeah, because if it's freight...
ours is done down the road.
Yeah.
It just makes things a lot simpler.
And if a fast fashion brand misses a trend, they will freight it in by airplane, and it gets really expensive really fast. So they have to justify that by pushing the sales and the volumes for that to justify being shipped over at such a late stage. So that's why they work so far in advance, usually the fast fashion.
I don't think
6 months in advance.
The consumers on the high street, I don't think they realise all that added cost that goes into just one garment. Of the shipping in China and the samples.
Yet they remain so cheap. That's why I can't really get my head around it.
The labour is cheap.
The labour is cheap.
Oh, super cheap, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's where the generation, when I was working for the big companies and going up to China, and I would stay there like 3 or 4 weeks at a time, the factories, when there was Chinese New Year, obviously the workers would go away to their hometowns for all that duration, and they couldn't, some of them, because it's in a way, the skill is not there anymore, because the people working in the factories are now had kids, and their children are wanting office jobs. They don't want to work in a factory. So they will be Or
there's a rising middle class in China.
There's a huge rise in middle class.
So now there'll be another country, maybe it's
Vietnam,
or Vietnam,
Bangladesh,
where they don't have the industry, and now they're building up that industry because they're just moving on. They're cheaper. They can't get the cheap cost as much as they can in China now, so they'll move it on to the next country who will do it for cheaper.
Yes.
So they can keep the price of the high street as low as possible.
Cambodia, things like that.
And there's that same effect everywhere you go of globalization, which is obviously just keeps products at a cheap price.
The issue I found is the places that they're going to, like Cambodia, Vietnam, and Bangladesh, you have to literally feed them everything. So it's not about creativity. It's literally them looking at a sample and them copying it verbatim and just going back, okay, this, and this is how they want it. There's no creativity there. However, with China, because it's been growing for the last 30, 40 years, they've built up that skill set to understand what the customers want in the Western world. Yeah. However, the new generation don't want to work there, so they are fighting. Sometimes the workers don't want to come back, so they have to pay them extra. And I think that's where the factory owners are struggling, and they're finding factories in Cambodia. So China are also going there.
Do you think we can stop it? Because I remember when I was studying Chinese, we did a lot of environmental research around the factories, around the dyes would go into the groundwater, and sometimes they can,
They pollute the rivers.
They pollute the rivers.
Yes.
Do you think that it will be just as bad for these new countries who are working with the industry, so Cambodia, Vietnam? Is it already happening, or can we stop it? Can we somehow, can big brands say, actually, we're going to use environmentally friendly dyes, or however? Do you think they can stop it?
I think if there's a consumer push like it is at the moment, I mean, there was that big fire in Bangladesh that really stopped the industry because of how many people died, and that was because of the cheap £2 t-shirts. When you see a t-shirt for £5, please question why it's £5. There's a reason, and someone somewhere's not being paid well for that or being treated in the right way. A lot of child labour, but it's not all brands, even though they're big brands. There are brands that out there that audit the factories and look at factories and say we only work with, they have a green light system, and they only work with factories that have passed all these kind of regulations. So, and they have a regular checks as well. It's not just have it one time, they go in and check. But sometimes it is out of the brand's hands, because you don't know if that factory gets overloaded because they've taken so many orders on and they've subcontracted it out to somebody else. But you as a brand don't know. With the best intentions, you're thinking you're working with someone you've given your word and that's it. But actually behind your back, to meet orders and to get extra money, they've done that. So
with a subcontractor who probably pays them even less because they've got their profit and overheads and everything else. So then you've got a question, where's it coming from? And I always say, when you go into any store in the UK, you have a vote of what you're buying. So if you buy something cheap and made it abroad, you're casting a vote saying, this is what I want as a consumer. And the brands will go, they're happy with that. But if you then turn around and go to another shop, well, you've got to spend a little bit more, but you get something made in the UK from a UK designer, you're casting your vote there. And you're letting the country know that, no, I'm investing in this. And everyone might go, oh yeah, we agree in that. And it's going to take time to do that, but the consumer has the power to decide where they want to go and what they want to do. One, you can educate them as kids. As they grow up, they'll understand where clothes come from. But like you say, if you walk into a shop and you see a £5 t-shirt, you got a question, okay, well, someone spent half a day making that? And then there's the...
not being paid well.
There's the profit on top of that, so you got the wholesale and the retail. So you times it by a factor of whatever it might be, say 5. And then you got a question, okay, so that t-shirt was made for
pennies.
20p, 10p, and the fabric probably cost 5p.
Yeah.
Someone's
only got paid to do that.
Someone's paid, but it's they've paid with something else.
And it does make you think.
Sacrifice.
Because then you go, well, it's not feasible to do that. I don't want to contribute to that.
And that's why we couldn't do that for AVIE. It doesn't sit right with us. Like, when we see someone working hard, we want to pay them for doing a good job. And sometimes, for us, seeing that in the bigger factories, if the ethos is not aligned from the start, we can't work with that person because it's just not going to work. We're on different wavelengths. We have to be upfront with our suppliers and manufacturers and say, look, we're working with this kind of mindset. This is where we want to go, where at this level now, we want to grow in the future to be here. Are you on that journey with us? And normally a lot of people do want to partner with us because they like, yeah, we see the potential. We like your designs, we like what you're doing, we see the passion, and they want to be on that journey. So we want to build long-lasting relationships, not just using this factory because it's the cheapest. We're using it because actually they're a good fit for us as a business and we're a good fit for them. And that comes at a premium. There's, you know, and also hopefully because we're bringing back to UK manufacturing, British jobs and the economy will need the biggest support now after Brexit. And we want to help local apprentices. So we are partnering with universities and organisations that actually upskill people who want to work in the fashion industry from the sewing and seamstress and the pattern cutting side of things.
And how nice would it be to hire a Yorkshire person to do that?
For a Yorkshire manufacturing base.
Yes. Exactly.
And that's the
and
aim.
They can grow with us.
Yeah.
And then once we grow and get bigger and have other product lines, we can get another apprentice from around here. And you're contributing to the local community and helping someone get a job and skills.
Yeah,
I mean, it's better than going abroad, right?
I think one of the biggest things is also the skills are dying.
Yeah.
Because when I entered the fashion industry in my early 20s, the jobs were just starting to go to China. But all the mills and everything in Yorkshire were closing down in the 80s and the 90s. They were all but gone. And the fabric mills are still here. So the luxury brand fabric mills, they still supply Italy and all Chanel and all the big fashion houses. You just don't hear about it.
Yeah, we have luxury in Yorkshire on our footsteps and we don't know about it.
Yeah,
there's
we don't
so
shout
much
about it.
And the guys are still making it, and if they got more orders, they have capacity to produce it.
Yeah.
It's just that education of the consumer to understand that it's all here.
Yeah.
It might be a little bit more expensive, but
And it
it's
might be
a
the
quality
case.
product.
I think a good point is if everyone came on board, it might get cheaper to make here because we can do economies and
scale
build
here.
more, and then it will be, we're bringing everything back, but because there is a fledgling industry going on, we can find the maximize and streamline the processes and maximize the ways to do this to feed the people who cannot afford high-end top luxury. So you have like a diffusion line for those, but still using the same fabrications in a different manner. It's just, there's ways around it. It's just we all need to be in it together, walking down the same road to make a massive impact.
Yeah. And we're having conversations at the moment with a couple of the brands based up north, a jewellery one and one's a lingerie one, to maybe do a pop-up shop.
Wonderful.
Maybe one in Leeds and then one in London. But it's all made locally and sourced locally. So let's promote that and get it out there and allow people to come in and touch and feel everything. Because obviously online, the images look amazing, of course, because I did them. But you want to touch and feel the garments. You want to feel what it, see what it feels like, and try it on. So give people that opportunity to do that. They might go away and then 2 weeks later buy it online, which is fine. But we want people to try things on and see what it is.
Okay, so I feel like, we will help you educate. We will push this out far and wide to get more and more people on your board and part of your story and witness your journey. But for people kind of watching, you've got all kinds of people hopefully watching this. Where can we find you? If someone sees this and goes, oh my God, I love that dress, I have to get it. Where can they find you? Can they come down? Can they give you a call? Do you have the e-commerce site up and running? AVIE-studio.com. Okay, AVIE.
Put it right there.
Yes, and we will
Movie magic.
Put that on the screen. But you know what? I love that you're championing local. Yeah. I love that. I wish more people knew about you.
Yes.
AVIE, check it out. That you are a convert. You are both converts of fast fashion, and now you really understand the impact the industry is having. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
And also to see people, taking that stand against what is, a lot of people have got the pressure to be a part of this industry, and also bringing back the sort of love of fashion by doing it in this way, and bring the dedication to the garments and making sure that there's a thought behind every stitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Little tagline there.
Thought behind every stitch. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Oh,
Thanks for having us.
So much.
How fun.